The tilt is real.
The tilt is real.
This is when the tilt is real.
Welcome to another episode of The Tilt is Real Fantasy Podcast. Coming to you live from the chef's table, here are your hosts, James Crease and Juan Pena.
Let's go. Hey, welcome back to the Tilt is Real Fantasy Football Podcast. It is August 4th, and we are here for episode 63 here at the chef's table. No, he's not at the chef's table. He's chilling in his own home tonight. Mr. Juan Carlos Pena, what's going on, bud?
It is Wednesday, my dudes. I had to say that for Mr. Swanson. Make sure we got that in there. Happy to be here again, Chef. We're always tilting. We're always having a good time with this show. We're going to be doing the positions for the next few weeks, and today we're going to start out with the tight ends, and it's going to be a really good show.
We're going to keep it tight.
Always tight.
Maybe tighten up.
Tighten up. We might tighten up. We're going to talk about the Titans a little bit. Ferkser is going to be mentioned. We're going to have some names going off. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I thought it. I mean, you and Swanson came up with the idea to play against the expert consensus rankings and see where our rankings actually matched up. And I think it's a great exercise for us to do, because when people go and start their drafts and they look at their ADP and they look at all these expert rankings, they don't take it for what it really is. What the expert ranking does is it gives you a consensus of breaking down all of the experts into one forum. But what you should really be doing is looking and making your own decisions off of what you see, off of what you hear, and making your own assumptions on where those players are valued to you, because it's your team, it's your league. You know, you want to win. Of course, you take the expert opinions, but it's different to break it all down and to see it go which way. We're going to have some fun with it.
Yeah, it varies, Chef, and there's no position that's more volatile than the tight end position, and a lot of people are on the 3 tight ends, and then that's it. Stream them if you don't have them. So it's going to be interesting to see what the expert consensus ranking, because it is expert. It's an average, so you could have a bunch of guys ranking someone really high, and then a few guys ranking them where they should be, and someone's got them really low, and it's bringing down the average. And really, the guy's value is different, so that's why you play the game, and that's why you move them around. And shout out to Antonio Canchola in the chat, and my man Justin.
What's going on, guys?
Always with us.
Just to get back into our normal reel of things, we are back with another great fun-filled episode today. Last week, we did our midsummer mock draft with some of the guests on the show in the chat. Antonio, Justin was there. It was a lot of fun, man, and we look forward to doing it again towards the end of this month. So if you guys are interested, let us know. You can either write in the chat, write into the show at Mailbag at thetiltisreal.com. And we have a fun-filled episode today because Antonio actually wrote in to the Mailbag email, and he's like, hey, I need your help with this. He has a keeper league, and he asked if we could, he's doing a little research for his league, so he asked if we could maybe pick out the keepers that his league mates should probably take. That way he can better rank his draft or mock his draft out, which is, it goes hand in hand. When you're in a keeper league, you need to know all the other teams who they're going to keep. Juan, you and I, we were in a keeper league together for years, and we'd be like, oh yeah, he's keeping him. Oh yeah, he's keeping him. So we knew how to prepare for our drafts better.
Yeah, beyond mocking, like this is taking it a step further. You're kind of mocking out what your league mates are going to do or what they should do. Because a lot of times we would say that, Chef, and then somebody would be like, oh, I'll keep Jordy Nelson and he's out on IR. So different fun things happen, you know what I mean, in those leagues. But we're going to try our best to help Antonio figure out who his league mates are taking, who they're keeping, so then he can prepare himself for his draft so he can lift another trophy.
And of course, we already talked about the tilting through the ranks with the tight ends. That should be a fun exercise. But before we do all that, like we normally do, let's break it down for the weekly reel.
Keep it real.
It's the weekly reel. presented by The Tilt is Real. It's the weekly reel. Let me hear that news.
And let's start out, Juan, with the weekly reel this week. First and foremost, the speak of the week. Broncos coach Vic Fangio said the team's quarterback competition between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater is still even Steven. Now, my pick is Teddy Bridgewater. I know you were an advocate for Drew Lock last season. What's your take on this right now? Because it seems like they are 50-50 in practice in training camp right now with their snap share.
And I would figure they would be at this point. I was in love with Drew Lock because of the arm talent. I love the connection he had with Cortland Sutton before Cortland Sutton got injured. And the season before, at the end, when he came in, he was playing, he had a couple decent games. I like that he's been in the system, but you can expect a veteran like Teddy Bridgewater to pick up the offense quickly, move the practices along, and be a more professional quarterback during practice. So that's what's keeping them even. But I feel like at some point throughout the preseason, talent will rise, and I think Drew Lock is the better talent, and I think he might end up getting the starting job. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Teddy either way. Like it's 50-50, but I would go 60-40 Drew Lock just because I like the arm talent.
I think Drew Lock has the upside if he gets the job. I like the wide receivers in that system a little bit better. Mentioning, shout out Justin in the chat. He wants to know Fant or Eagles tight end. Well, we'll get to that a little bit later in the show, but for me, it's Dallas Goddard I would take over Noah Fant. And it has a lot to do with the quarterback situation. Drew Lock, still a little unproven. He was out for injuries. The receivers were out for injuries. He had every excuse in the book. Teddy Bridgewater dealt with his own kind of injuries, but also sustained 2 top 24 wide receivers in DJ Moore. Oh yeah, Curtis Samuel
and Robbie Anderson.
DJ Moore was 25. Robbie Anderson was inside, and Curtis Samuel as well. So all 3 of those were very top end wide receivers in the respect that they were wide receiver 2s for fantasy. I would lean on Teddy Bridgewater with the experience, but we could see a switch during the season. Like, hey, if Drew Lock wins in camp, Teddy Bridgewater riding the pine for a little bit and then coming in and bailing Drew Lock out is not unforeseen at all either. And that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on probably through training camp, obviously, but into the season, regular season as well.
Yeah, I'll give Teddy B a pass also because he didn't have CMC. Like, it would have been a completely different offense if you had, Christian McCaffrey back there, and it would have been even better for those wide receivers, and he could have had a better season than what he had. So I'll give him a little bit of an excuse. And this is one of those battles we're going to be watching for the next few weeks.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Eagles offense coordinator Shane Steichen said he's catering the team's offense to fit Jalen Hurts' strengths. It's an encouraging bit of news after head coach Nick Sirianni has been cool to crafting an offense based on Hurts' rushing abilities. Konami code up, my man. Here it comes.
Run it.
And, this brings us right into some injury news, too, because their newest wide receiver in Devonta Smith will miss the next 2 to 3 weeks with an MCL injury. I guess he hurt his knee. Sprained knee, 2 to 3 week time frame. That brings him out of the chemistry level that we were hoping that he was going to build with Jalen Hurts. That brings us back to square one from last year. Who are the backup wide receivers in the depth? I mean, Rager? Is that it? No, it's really Dallas Goddard, and we even see reports of Zach Ertz being the new Slim Shady on the team, with his bleach blonde hair. It's a great Twitter story if you haven't heard anything yet. Do I expect Ertz to be fantasy relevant to the point where I'd be drafting him? No, not really. But it's also, I'm happy to see that Hurts will be running the football more, and they are going to cater to that, similar to a Lamar Jackson style offense. And then on the other hand of things, it boosts Miles Sanders up as well, because if he is in that backfield, they won't know when he is going to get the ball. Kind of disguises coverages like that as well. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, 12.4 targets last year by the Eagles to the tight end, to those 2 tight ends, Goddard and Ertz combined. So who's going to get the higher end? That's what scares me off of Goddard a little bit and has him lower in the ranks, which we'll get to. But Chef, 2 tight end sets is what you're going to need to be able to run the ball with Hurts. And if you're going to run it more and you're going to have Miles Sanders involved and you're going to play that kind of offense, you're going to need both tight ends. Hurts is probably not going to get traded, which we thought all offseason that he was going to go to Indy or Buffalo. It seems like he's going to stay there, and they're going to plan to build that offense around 2 tight end sets and just run the ball with Hurts. And Devonta Smith, I wouldn't worry too much. Hopefully he just drops his value so I can get him as my wide receiver 4 in a lot of redraft leagues and not have to pay the price that you were going to have to pay for him if he was healthy and showing off in on preseason.
Yeah, I think it kind of works its magic a little bit for fantasy drafts. Like you said, it may keep his value where it is. I think in like the 6th round, people are picking up Devonta Smith right now. I'll be happy with Devonta Smith if he stays at that 6th round level. And shout out to Big Greens in the chat. What's going on? What's going on, Big Greens?
Big Greens. And I love what he just said right there. He said he drafted Alvin Kamara yesterday at number 1, like the Saints fan that he is, and he has no regrets. I wouldn't either, my man. Like I do that with Saquon, so yeah, do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, I took Dalvin Cook over Saquon the other day, and I have no regrets about it at all.
I took Alvin Kamara over Dalvin Cook today in a best ball. I took Alvin Kamara as number 2. So shout out Big Greens and the Saints fans.
And Juan, we have a couple drafts coming up between the two of us. I mean, let's see. We have 1, 2, 3. Is that it? 3 redraft leagues?
Yeah, 3 redrafts, and I don't think you joined the new Dynasty League that we're starting up over there at the Cup. But yeah, I have 4 drafts coming up, and then I have 2 other drafts that I'm doing, and I'm consulting on a couple drafts. So it's going to be a fun season
draft
for me.
Consultant, huh?
Draft consultant,
yes,
sir.
one of a kind. I love
yes,
it,
sir.
FF Draft Consultant here in the building for the Tilt is Real Fantasy Football Podcast. That is great news. Yeah,
Yes,
I was invited to a special league of extraordinary New Jersey gentlemen, which is going to be a industry league. But some of the top rankers from Fantasy Pros are going to be in this. And since I saw the post go out, they're like, hey, anybody live in Jersey want to get in on this? I said, hands up. Yes. Great networking event for me. And yeah, I have to drive up to Princeton for it. But hey, it should be fun. Some good friends. Shout out to Laquan Jones over there at Real Deal Fantasy for putting it all together. And Joe Pisciapea will be there. It's going to be good stuff. For those of you that don't know, Joe Pisciapea is one of the top rankers at Fantasy Pros. He actually won 2019 number 1 ranker from Fantasy Pros Experts. So yeah, I'm going up against some big names. So we'll see how it goes.
Handle that.
Yeah, I'm going to do what I got to do, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going out on IR, but one person that may be on IR for a while is Carson Wentz. Underwent foot surgery on Monday, and for all intents and purposes, the surgery went well. Okay, so originally he could have been sidelined anywhere from 5 to 12 weeks.
That's a big window.
That's a big window. Yeah. Will he play week 1? Will he not return until November after their bye week? But I'm leaning towards he's back probably around week 2 or 3. I think Jacob Eason gets the start for 1 game, or Sam Ehlinger, whoever wins out in camp, but it looks like it's going to be Eason. And you just look like, Jonathan Taylor will run the ball a little bit more in the first 2 games of the season.
And Quentin Nelson, Chef, all-world left guard, has the same injury as Carson Wentz. So that's going to affect a little bit of Jonathan Taylor. And I'd be curious to see what happens during drafts if he drops into the 2nd and 3rd round. And shout out Justin, because Justin and I were talking about this yesterday off air. And we were talking about how Jonathan Taylor is going to slide out of that first 7, 8, 9 picks if Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz aren't ready to go by the time we're drafting. By the time the drafts come around, I think he falls just a couple numbers, if not into the 2nd round.
And Big Green wants to know, I got Michael Thomas in the 5th round. Any thoughts on his upside after the injury? I'm hesitant on Michael Thomas. I am not willing to hold on to him for 8 games. It's just one of those things. Like, I mean, he's going to be riding your IR spot. If you have an IR spot on your league, okay, great. But it's a tricky situation. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be when he comes back in week 8, and what kind of durability does Michael Thomas had? He played with an injury last year. It lingered into this year. He waited to get surgery until June. Like, he could have gotten the surgery back in February and he would have been fine. He would have been ready to go.
I just think he's built that way. Like, he doesn't want to get surgery. He doesn't want to go out. He wants to play through the injury, and he's a tough dude. So, like, I feel like when he comes back, he's going to be a league-winning type wide receiver, potentially. So, like, if I'm drafting in the 7th, 8th round or 6th round and he's there, I'll take Michael Thomas in week 8, especially like you said, Chef. And then shout out everybody in your league. Try to get an IR spot. Like, you should definitely have at least one IR spot, especially with the 2020 going around. You're going to need those spots to be able to conserve some of your players and be able to make some moves. And shout out Waiver Wire Heroes show every Tuesday and check out what the chef has to say. You're going to want to plug those guys in. And if you have Michael Thomas, you can move him to the IR spot. You open something up and you plug in one of those Waiver Wire Heroes, one of those rookies that might hit early on in the season, and let them ride out until you get Michael Thomas back, and then you plug him into your team, and suddenly your team looks like a juggernaut because you got a league winner who had 174 targets 2 seasons ago.
I love the word juggernaut, and this brings me into our last piece of news for this show. The juggernaut, Nick Chubb, he does look like a juggernaut.
He does.
Big, solid.
Yeah, I'm the juggernaut. Yeah.
Gets signed to a 3-year, $36.6 million extension with $20 million guaranteed. Chubb is arguably one of the best rushers in the league. And, you know, he's consistently been inside the top 12, except for the injury-ridden year, of course. But I'm sorry, even with injury, he was still inside the top 12.
Yeah.
And 5 yards per carry on average throughout his career. He is a stud. It looks like the Browns are doing the right things in their organization, cementing Chubb for the next 3 years.
Yeah, and they get Kareem Hunt for 2 of those years, so they have insurance policies, and you know what they want to do. They want to lead the league in rushing attempts, or at least be in that top 3, top 5. And in order to do that, you need a bell cow and a true workhorse. And I love Chubb this year. I'm having a hard time keeping him out of my top 5, Chef. Like, I just want to keep him moving him up and up my ranks. So kudos to them for doing the right thing.
And Big Green's just saying, he says, I just watched every game that he had that record season, talking about Michael Thomas, and know what he can do. But I also got Mooney and Cooks to fill in where needed until he gets healthy. But that puts your team at a little bit of a disadvantage at the wide receiver position, because although Cooks can be a wide receiver 1, you don't know what Deshaun Watson will be doing. Mooney, on the other hand, has tons of upside, but yet Andy Dalton looks like the more comfortable quarterback 1 in that setting compared to Justin Fields. Well, for now, we don't know exactly how that's going to turn out. So there are some question marks around those players, although they do have upside. You can't depend on them as a wide receiver 1 throughout the season. And if Michael Thomas comes back week 8, you might be already out of contention for the playoffs. So Big Greens, if I were you, I would try to make a move for Robert Woods, someone with a little bit more consistency.
You want a floor.
Yeah, you want a floor player, not just some players with upside on your wide receiver spots.
Chef, though, you've been a big Mooney fan, and I can understand the excitement. I can understand the excitement after that game last year where he took Jalen Ramsey and then Nick Foles couldn't hit him down that sideline. I said, man, if you can whoop Jalen Ramsey on any given play, then I like your chances to be successful week in and week out. And he's one of those guys that's going to be a dart throw and more of a little bit of a breakout candidate kind of guy, and people they're going to be sleeping on him a little bit. Not us and not anyone in any of our tilters. We're obviously onto it. But in your home leagues and in your drafts, people are going to be like, Darnell Mooney, who's that? You're going to get that look from some guy in your draft, and you're going to be like, all right, I'll show you who he is. And I think he's going to be good. So it's okay.
I can't disagree with you at all. He's one of my favorite rookies that I'm trying to get in drafts every single draft. I'm glad we're not drafting next to each other, so we'll be able to figure that out in our upcoming draft next weekend.
And you can have him, Chef. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm not worried about having him. But what I like about Big Green's strategy was he took Michael Thomas in the 5th. So I'm assuming he's loaded at running back and tight end in the first 4. So if you're stacked at running back and tight end, or you took a QB that's going to be a home run hitter early, like in the 4th round or something, your team could be potentially really good and not depend on the receiver position too much. And then a lot of these leagues only have 2 wide receiver spots too. So that's something to factor in.
I'm a big advocate of Darnell Mooney. As you know, I was listening to a podcast the other day, shout out Roto Underworld, and they were talking about the mistakes made in the first round of the drafts and the NFL drafts. And if you think about it, it's true. Look at Henry Ruggs, look at Jalen Reagor, those guys that did not produce in year 1 in the first round. And then you have Darnell Mooney, a 4th-round draft pick, who is already cemented in as the wide receiver 2 in a system that is just growing and has a lot more upside. So I am, like I said, I'm a big advocate of that. And it just goes to show that, you need some production in college. You need a 1,000-yard season in college. You need to be able to break cornerbacks down and get away like he did to Jalen Ramsey last year.
Say hi, Lulu.
Hey.
We didn't see this, Chef, but obviously our tilters are great and they win their titles. But Big Greens already has Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore, so he's just counting on Michael Thomas to come in and be his 3rd wide receiver if and when he comes back. So
okay.
he's gonna flex Cooks and Mooney until Michael Thomas comes back, and then he's gonna be loaded at wide receiver.
Oh, you're good then, Big Greens.
I'll see you in the playoffs.
See you in the playoffs, my man. Love it. All right. With that being said, I think that wraps up our news. Let's get into our tilting through the ranks segment with the tight ends. You ready to get it, Juan?
Let's do it.
Let's start tilting.
Keep it tight.
Tell them boys to tighten up. Tighten up.
Let me hear you say it.
Ho, sit again, hype now. Tell them boys to tighten up. Tighten up.
Let me hear you say it.
Nissan come alive for them. Tell them boys to tighten up. Tighten up.
Ooh, let me hear you say it.
All my people on Broadway. Tell them boys to tighten up.
One time, one.
Oh, tell them boys to tighten up. Tighten up.
And we are here to tighten up with some tight ends, and we're going to go through the rankings. Now, these are the ECR expert consensus rankings from Fantasy Pros. And Juan, I mean, it's pretty easy, and I'm pretty sure we can agree that Travis Kelce is the 101 for tight ends.
All day.
Yeah, exactly.
Zero debate. Don't try to get cute. Don't say, well, then maybe this is Waller's year or Kittle's going to come back and be. Let's not get crazy. This dude would have been like, wide receiver 5 last year, I think it was, that he would have ended up being.
He had overall the top 8 fantasy points in PPR scoring.
Yeah. So take him as he should, 7th, 8th overall in your drafts. Don't let him get to the turn and just go ahead and take Travis Kelce and lock it in. He's the 101.
But then for your second pick, is it George Kittle or is it Waller? Because the consensus rankings are showing Waller as the number 2. Would that be correct?
It would be for me, simply because he's on a team that's going to throw the ball more and he's going to continue to have the opportunity over what Kittle's going to have. There are less weapons for him to compete with. He's going to be that target hog, and he averaged 9.1 targets a game last year. Like, I can't turn away 9 targets to a dude with that catch radius and that athletic ability on a team that is probably going to be playing from behind and throwing the ball more than the 49ers will be.
And these are our go-to tight ends. Like, if we're going to get into it a little bit deeper on the ones that you may want to pick up later in the draft. You don't want to just, I mean, it might be easier said and done this year just to go out and get one of these guys and cement that position and not worry about it if you're really concerned about the tight end production.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it gets real thin. We're going to talk about one more guy here, maybe 2 more guys that you'd be willing to take in the first few rounds. But like, the price is getting too steep, Chef. Like, after Kelce, the price is too high. Like, I'm not paying a 1st-round pick for Waller, regardless of opportunity that he's going to have. And I'm not paying it for Kittle either. So we're talking about 2nd-round value, late 2nd, if maybe. And then 3rd is where I'm comfortable, really. If they fall to me in the 3rd, I won't walk away from Kittle or Waller in the 3rd round.
Right. I'm okay with Waller in the late 2nd, early 3rd rounds. I'm
Correct.
okay with that to cement that kind of a production from that position. But George Kittle, now, where is he getting drafted? Let me check his ADP real fast, because
is it 26, 27?
He is currently above in ADP overall. He is 25.
There he
and
is.
Darren Waller is 29. And
Oh,
expert consensus rankings show that George Kittle is below Waller, yet going ahead in ADP. Or maybe this is standard scoring. Maybe I oopsed it. Oh, never mind. It is right. 26 for George Kittle. My apologies. And now, Juan, are we willing to spend that draft capital on George Kittle? I'm not convinced.
I am, Chef. 15.6 points per game last year in the games that he was healthy. Target monster. That's the price I'm willing to pay. If I'm at 101, 102, 103, that first pick in the 3rd round, he doesn't get by me. Like, I'm not letting him get by there. And I might even jump out the window if Waller's gone and take him at the end of the 2nd just to make sure I got him, and then back it up with another running back in the 3rd. but I'm willing to pay that price for sure for somebody who can win me a league at that position and give me an advantage. Because after that, Chef, the waters are about to get murky now. Like, this is when you start to tilt. Like, after Kittle, it's all over.
Well, so I mean, I guess my tight end rankings are a little bit different. I actually have let's see. I'm going to go with oh man, I'm getting mixed up here. There's players all over the place on my screen. My actual third tight end in my rankings is TJ Hawkinson.
Wow.
Now, I love TJ Hawkinson. Last year he had over 100 targets in that offense with Matt Patricia as the coach. This year he has Dan Campbell, a former tight end, and I think he has all the option in the world. And we had talked about it in some detail in the past couple shows, especially when we broke down the NFC North, that it's going to be Hawkinson as the main contributor in that offense, along with DeAndre Swift. Now, I know George Kittle is great. We've seen him blast through the fantasy ranks, but he also has a little bit more wide receiver competition, you know, with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. I have George Kittle at 4, and I am willing to pull the cord on TJ Hawkinson more so at his current ADP of 57 than I would spending it on George Kittle at 26. And that's my thoughts. It's almost
value.
Very, yeah, exactly. It's value. And it's similar production because, you know, besides Travis Kelce and Darren Waller, the numbers between George Kittle, say Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson, who we are going to talk about these guys in a second, they are going to be similar in numbers and before that cliff drops off. And I think Hawkinson, with the most value there at ADP, is my go-to guy, and I can rank him accordingly for that reason.
Yeah, the one thing I'll give you, Chef, is that Jared Goff is going to throw the ball to the tight end. He's going to be the number one option. He's the number one target. The receivers there are unproven. And last year, the Rams tight ends averaged 14.4 fantasy points per game. That would have been third best in the league. So if you combine Gerald Everett and Higbee. So yes, the upside is there for Hawkinson. Look for Goff to, rely on him. I would go with the proven commodity, and I'm willing to pay the third round price, but I totally understand the 2-round difference in value and what you can get in between. Like in the third round, you can get a, Swift, who's on that same team, a CEH, whatever running back you like, Montgomery, Josh Jacobs. You can get one of those guys and then still get Hawkinson later. I understand why you would make that pivot, and I'd be willing to make it if I had to pay too much for Kittle. Like instead of paying for Kittle in the second round, I guess I understand the point of value. But I don't even have Hawkinson in my top 5, Chef.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And before we get to your next guy, then, if Deshaun, Big Grains wants to know, if Deshaun goes to a place like Denver, does Noah Fant get shot up into a top 3 round pick? I don't think so.
Not 3, but he's going to be in that Mark Andrews, Hawkinson 5th round conversation for sure.
I mean, if we look at the tight ends from the Texans, none of them were really big fantasy contributors. We saw a little Darren Fells. We saw a little Kahale Waring. Jordan Akins was a candidate last year, but never really splashed. Deshaun Watson, if he does go and play for Denver, I would be more happy with the wide receivers in Denver than anything else, and especially the pass catching running backs in Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon.
Now, in his defense, or in their defense, those guys that we named, all of them combined, aren't Noah Fant athletically. So it's a different animal when you're talking about a guy that is just as athletic, if not more, than TJ Hawkinson. Like both of those guys were in college together, and Noah Fant's the better athlete, but opportunity is king. So right now he's down. And if Deshaun went there, I would boost him up, but I wouldn't put him on top of any of those guys. He'd probably be in my top 7 or so, which he's already close, but I'd have him in my top 7 or so.
And then real fast before we go back, Antonio wants to know, if Jimmy goes down again, how much does that hurt his value? Speaking of Kittle, I mean, I don't think it really hurts his value at all because they have a competent backup now in Trey Lance. And if Jimmy goes down, it's Jimmy's job to lose as of right now. So I don't think it hurts Kittle's value at all. In anything, I think we might get a little bit of a splash in value for Kittle because of Trey Lance's accuracy. He is a very accurate quarterback, and he will be leaning on Kittle as a safety net when it goes through. Now, Juan, the next consensus ranking was TJ Hawkinson at 4. the expert consensus rank, TJ Hawkinson at 4. I had him at 3, a little bit higher than that. Where do you have Hawkinson? Because you said you don't have him inside the top 5.
I actually have him at 5. He's right at 5. I couldn't pull the trigger on moving my guy Evan Ingram into the top 5. I had to leave him at 6 so people wouldn't say, "Oh, it's a hot take." I left him at 6. But the guy I have at number 4, Chef, is your boy Logan Thomas.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to move him all the way up. I love that when we do these shows, you do all this research and then you find the reasons why you want to do certain things. I didn't want to have Logan Thomas here. I wanted to have him outside of my top 12. I really don't like that he's, I guess because I play too much Dynasty, he's a little older and Fitzpatrick and there's questions, but it's a Scott Turner offense. I remember what Greg Olsen was like, and I'm like, what's going on with that offense? He was 4th last year in targets per game. So he was heavily targeted by all those quarterbacks that we won't go into their names. Yeah. And now he's going to get Fitzpatrick, who historically likes throwing it to the tight end. You saw Gosicki fall off once Tua came in, but when Fitzpatrick was in there, he was in the top 10 in targets as well. So
he does like a big target guy.
He does, and he likes throwing the ball up the seams, Chef. He likes making that throw if you cover the outsides, and you have all that speed on the outside for defenses to worry about. I think Logan Thomas eats, and I don't see the big drop-off in touchdown regression like everybody's talking about, and I think he can finish inside that top 5 where he was last year. So I like Logan Thomas at 4, slightly ahead of TJ Hawkinson.
And you're getting him at a great value in drafts, currently going 85 overall. I mean, I don't have a problem with Logan Thomas, but I'm just shocked that you have him above the other advocates in that position with Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts getting all the hype. I mean, we saw Mark Andrews be a top 3 tight end, and he just sits here at the expert consensus rankings of number 5 overall, which is pretty interesting to say because Lamar Jackson not in training camp. They add in Rashad Bateman. Oh, what is she doing? What is she doing over there?
She's coloring and stuff over here.
She's coloring?
Yeah. She's coloring and talking.
Hi, Luciella. We love you so much. My little niece over there.
Theo says he loves you.
But I'm hearing good things out of Rashad Bateman in camp. Even Marquis Brown, Marquise No Grease will be on the field. And we keep forgetting about J.K. Dobbins and the ability of him catching the ball. So if they are going to throw the ball more, I think it takes away from Mark Andrews' targets just a little bit. He could be more reliant in the red zone, but then Rashad Bateman, the big, tall, 6+ foot wide receiver, the alpha in that offense, will be a red zone target as well. So how much faith do we have in Mark Andrews?
Yeah, I have him down at 7. I put Evan Ingram ahead of him again because of opportunity. Like Evan Ingram's problem last year was he had 1 touchdown. You start getting some of those touchdowns, 4 or 5 of those. He's not going to go down in targets. He's on a better offense, I think. So, at least for pass catching at any way. Mark Andrews, all those narratives you just said, Chef, Sammy Watkins, Hollywood Brown, Rashad Bateman, throwing the ball, coach speak. We had it a couple weeks ago. We're going to throw the ball more to J.K. Dobbins. We're going to get the running backs involved in the passing game. And they're going to lead the league in rushing attempts again. So that volume isn't quite there for Andrews. So I'm going to fade him down a little bit and leave him. What I'm not willing to do is the same thing you did earlier with the value, Chef. If you didn't want to go with Kittle, I don't want to go with Andrews where I can wait 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and then get Evan Ingram. Or then get, you know what I mean? Or wait 5, 6 rounds and get Troutman or Ferkser or any of these guys that are going to have opportunity.
Yeah, I'm not on board with taking Mark Andrews at his current ADP of 49 overall. That's just too early for that position to, and it's the same with my 5th guy in Kyle Pitts, who is, I believe, the next guy in our rankings. Yeah, he's number 6 in the ECR rankings. I have these guys back to back. I have Pitts on top of Andrews, and I feel that Pitts is going to be a main contributor in the Falcons offense.
Yeah, I love Pitts, and he's the unicorn upside guy, but his value is going to be too much. Like, I'm not paying the price. Like, it's too steep. At the moment, the price is too steep because of all those other options that there are, Chef. Last year, there were only 10 guys that average over 6 targets a game. So, like, at tight end. So that tight end position's really thin. Like, once you get down below a certain point, you're almost better off taking 2 flyers. You're almost better off. Like, we haven't even talked about guys like Jonnu and Hunter Henry up in New England and what's going to happen there. There's so many other options at tight end that this is where I get to the point where I'm unwilling to pay the price. Like, I won't be the guy drafting a tight end in the 5th round. I just won't be. I won't take Hawkinson. I won't take Andrews. I'm not taking Fant, who I love. I'm not taking Evan Ingram. None of those guys are getting taken in the 5th, 6th round. Whoever falls to me in the 8th, 9th, 10th round, that's where I'll start making a move and maybe grabbing one, and then I'll grab one at the very end of the draft.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And you just mentioned Noah Fant. He is currently ECR Noah Fant number 7, followed by Dallas Goddard, and which is kind of crazy here because Dallas Goddard is going ahead in ADP 76, and then Noah Fant right behind him at 80, right where Logan Thomas 85. So you're saying you'd rather have Logan Thomas out of all 3 of those guys, and I'm almost with you. I think. Where am I at here?
Especially at value, yeah.
I have Dallas Goddard a little bit ahead of Logan Thomas, but I am right there with you. I have Dallas Goddard at 7, Logan Thomas at 8. I have Noah Fant down at 11 in my rankings. I am not on board with him. He is burned me. He had the injury last year. We don't know how he's doing with in the new offense with the competition of quarterback. He has Cortland Sutton back in the offense, Jerry Jeudy back in his 2nd year, the addition of Javonte Williams. All these variables affect Noah Fant and his production. And I'm afraid that he's going to be the odd man out when it comes to fantasy points. And I'm not willing to take Noah Fant, like you said, at 80 overall. I'm just not willing to do it.
That's what I'm not going to do either. I'm not going to pay that price. Chef, we agreed on this one. I have him at 11 as well. And it's simply because of the quarterback play and all the things that you mentioned, all the other competition that there is on that team. And it's really difficult to pan out who's going to get the touchdowns. Like, that's the hardest thing to predict is touchdowns. Because you see guys like Robert Tonyan, who I have at 12, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but it was because of the touchdowns. Like, if he didn't have a 3-touchdown game and if he didn't have like these monster games, he wouldn't have been up that high. So it's inconsistent as a position in general. So it's hard for me to pay mid-round level for a tight end at any point. Yeah, I like that that's bold, Big Greens.
That's bold, but I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that Pitts will be a top 3 in tight end scoring this year. It's not. We saw Robert Tonyan do it last year. He was the tight end 3. I mean, and we'll probably talk about him a little bit. Yeah. I don't really have him in my rankings. I guess I put him, upgrade him.
I snuck him in there at 12. And shout out to Zach Argue, my man Zach. He's back in, and he said, "How about Kyle Pitts? You think he'd be able to come out and be a stud with his size?" And Big Greens just answered that he's going to be a top 3 tight end in scoring this year, and he very well could be because he has a clear path to targets and he has a clear path to relevancy, and they're going to involve him in the offense, and he's a special kind of specimen. So he has all those things that you want. If you're going to take a shot on a tight end in rounds 5 through 8 or whatever in that range, go ahead and take it on the rookie if you want, because that he gives you the best upside. Like, nobody has upside like him out of any of the guys that we mentioned outside of the big 3. No one, maybe TJ Hawkinson, like none of those, no one has that kind of upside. So I don't mind spending on Kyle Pitts, just not that crazy 3rd, 4th round place where everybody's talking. I'm talking 5th, 6th. My team is solid and I already have everything I need. Okay, then I'll take him if he falls to me.
We mentioned Dallas Goddard a little bit. Where did you have Dallas Goddard in your rankings, Juan?
I believe I had him number 9.
Number 9. So not too far off. We're pretty similar in that sense.
I had him behind Pitts. You know what scares me, Chef, is last year Zach Ertz had averaged 6.5 targets a game, and Goddard was at 5.9. So if you got a guy that's on his same team, you never know who's going to get those targets. Hurts might have the better rapport because Ertz was injured a lot, but just Goddard never got the chance to have more targets. And again, opportunity is king. And I don't like those split tight end situations. You saw what it did last year with Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph. Like, everywhere there's 2 tight ends. Look at Higbee and Gerald Everett. Now Gerald Everett's gone, and I have Higbee actually ranked right here at number 10. Ooh. Because if the Rams are throwing it to last year with Goff, they were throwing it to the tight end 14.4 times a game, or they averaged 14.4 points per game, the tight end there. So that was Higbee and Everett combined. Now there's no Everett. So maybe, Higbee gets a little bit of an uptick and he climbs back into that top 10 area. So that's why I had him up here.
I like that. I mean, we could debate the point on Higbee as well. There's a lot, just like we said with Noah Fant and the wide receiver and the receiving competition there. There's True. A lot of receiving competition in the Rams offense. I do like Higbee. I have Higbee. Let's see where I have him in my rankings.
And I
have him at number 10.
There you
Is
go.
that what you said? Number 10?
Yeah, number 10.
But my number 9 guy is Jonnu Smith for the New England Patriots. I am a firm believer in Jonnu Smith. I always have been from his rookie season when he played for Tennessee. I believe that Jonnu Smith is the guy that you can rely on this year to give you a nice, solid tight end floor. And you're getting him at a value at overall ADP of 134, the 17th tight end off the board. I'll take him over Hunter Henry. I'll take him over Tyler Higbee, Rob Gronkowski, Evan Ingram. I would take him over all of those guys. Yeah, that's pretty much where it's at.
I don't trust Bill Belichick, so I don't. I don't know. Listen, what happened last year? Jonnu's clearly better than Anthony Ferguson, right? But he's the better blocker, so Tennessee left him in to block. So what happens this year if you want to run the ball and Cam's your quarterback, and you have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith on the field at the same time? I feel like Jonnu's going to be doing a lot of blocking, way too much for my liking, and Hunter Henry's going to eat into it. Plus, you won't have that week-to-week consistency. So that's what hopefully what this exercise shows everybody in the audience and everybody that's listening to this. After the top three, it's a bunch of what ifs, and it's a bunch of coulda, woulda, shoulda, exactly. And it's a bunch of. So the most important thing at that point is value. Target the guys you like. Like in the chat, I saw someone like Cole Kmet. If you like Cole Kmet, then wait and go get Cole Kmet. I like Troutman. Go get Troutman late. Ferkser is going to have a chance to eat as the number one tight end in Tennessee. So I like him over Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, just because he's going to have a clearer path to relevance. So. But then again, none of these guys are going to be week in and week out target leaders for their team. Once you get past that guy, that's when you need to not reach for every tight end.
Right. I agree. Like let the draft fall to you.
Yes.
At that point, if you don't get one of those top three guys, be smart with your roster builds. Don't go out there and jump off a cliff because some guy took George Kittle and you think that you need to go out and get rushed to pick up Mark Andrews, to pick up Kyle Pitts. If it doesn't fall your way, just keep going with your draft, and you can get one of these floor guys like a Logan Thomas, like a Robert Tonyan, who we'll talk about here right now, ECR number 10, ahead of Tyler Higbee, who we just talked about in the ECR rankings. Now, Tonyan flashed hard last year. Yeah, I think he had that 3-touchdown game. He finished tight end 3. He gets Aaron Rodgers back for one more year with the Last Dance. He's part of that Last Dance roster in Lambeau. So what do you think? What are your expectations for Robert Tonyan this year? Can he improve on his already built situation chemistry with Aaron Rodgers this year? Noting, and does Randall Cobb entering into that offense take away some of those short slot opportunities that we saw Robert Tonyan have success with last year?
Yeah, Cobb scares me a little bit, but the reason that I have him at number 12 is because I want guys to either have the opportunity to be the pass catching, the target leader on their team, or second in targets on their team, or I want guys playing with a Hall of Fame MVP quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers is going to be on that Last Dance tour and he's going to throw 48 touchdowns, chances are he's got a good chance to get 8 to 10 of those touchdowns. So again, is he a franchise tight end? No. But can he put up franchise tight end numbers? Does he have that in him? Yeah. So he's one of those guys I'm targeting. Like right now, Big Greens are just saying, hold on, love, hold on. Troutman absolutely gives you that opportunity, especially with all the injuries and suspensions going on in New Orleans. Cole Kmet is probably going to be someone who gets a lot of targets up there in Chicago. I like those guys, and I think Tonyan's ahead of them. So he's in that top 12, top 15 as far as draft goes, but he has the potential to finish top 5 all day long, especially because of the touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers.
Fair enough. And a lot of these guys do have the potential. We saw Logan Thomas up there at I think he finished tight end 5, tight end 4 last year. Hawkinson, tight end 5. So, you're not out of the realm of possibilities of getting one of these guys and hitting. It's just you won't see the fantasy production like you would out of the top 3. And that is why we say if you're not getting in the top 3, wait on tight end. Last guy that I want to talk about is your boy, Mike Gosicki. Now, he's number 12 in ECR. Just to kind of keep this rolling, Mike Gosicki, number 12 in ECR. He loses Fitzpatrick, who boosted his production last year. He gets Tua. Now with an array of receiving weapons in Jalen Waddle, in Will Fuller. We still have Devontae Parker there. What do you think the outcome is for Gosicki this year? He's going currently at, 116 overall in drafts, ahead of Irv Smith, ahead of Evan Ingram, ahead of Tyler Higbee. is he somebody that you're willing to pull the trigger on, or is he kind of like a fade?
I'm wearing this jersey, and I have him as my 20th tight end.
Oh, well, that says a lot.
20, Chef.
I have him at tight end 15 behind the absolute mention, Adam Troutman. Adam Troutman, we'll switch. Since you have him at tight end 20, we're not going to spend too much time on Mike Gosicki. That means we are both fading Mike Gosicki. I love, and the chat has been blowing up on Troutman. Like Big Green says, just take Troutman late in the last in the draft. And that's absolutely right. Troutman currently going 161. So that is behind Evan Ingram, Gronkowski, Higbee, Henry, Jonnu, Ertz, Jared Cook. I'd be happy with Adam Troutman. I currently have him ranked as my tight end 12, right ahead of Robert Tonyan. I think the consistency and the competition for passing will run through Adam Troutman and Alvin Kamara. Why? Because like they mentioned, who mentioned it in the trade? Big Greens just mentioned it. Michael Thomas is hurt. Traquan Smith is hurt. Harris is suspended. They have Marquez Callaway unproven. And then that's pretty much the only other option is Troutman. So do we see a more short dink and dunk kind of passing offense with Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray running the ball until they can't run anymore? I don't think they have any other options right now unless they go out and sign a veteran off the streets.
Yeah, I love Troutman. I love the second-year tight end narrative with either him or Cole Kmet has an opportunity to smash, this year. And like you said, Chef, I have him at 13 right behind Tonyan, but semantics. Like once you get to that range, again, all these guys, it's all murky. And real quick,
dart throws. Yeah,
there are dart throws. And the reason I have Gosicki at number 20, Chef, is I know he was number 7 last year, but he's the reason I have him there. All the weapons that you mentioned on the Dolphins, right? We're going to try to run the ball. We're going to play a good defense and all that other stuff. So not a high volume offense, and he's low on the pecking order for targets. I'll take Ferkser over him as far as opportunity, right?
Ooh.
Right. I'll take Ferkser over Gosicki. I'll take Hunter Henry. Again, because if Jonnu's in blocking, Hunter Henry's going to be able to go out on pass routes. I'll take Gronk over Gosicki because he's playing on a better offense. And, Brady loves him in the red zone, and touchdowns dictate what tight ends are good. You already said you'll take Jonnu over Gosicki, so we're in agreement there. Yeah, I will take Gerald Everett over Gosicki.
Last round sleeper,
especially at value. Like he's going undrafted. So why wouldn't I take Gerald Everett with my 16th round pick while you take Mike Gosicki in the 7th round because the consensus rankings or whatever told you to? It's an inconsistent tight end on an offense that's not going to throw the ball that much versus Gerald Everett, who's going to be the third option as far as passing the ball on a pass heavy Seattle offense. So give me him. And your boy, another deep sleeper, Chef, Irv Smith. There's no Kyle Rudolph. So give me Irv Smith as late as he's going over Mike Gosicki. So I'm not willing to pay that price for the tight end. I hope that everyone gets to understand that that's my message that I want to convey to everyone is if you're not getting one of those top 3 guys, pick your 2 favorite flyers later on, target them in the teens plus, and then get them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I could totally agree with you there. If you don't hit the top 3, if you're not happy with your roster, don't reach on Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goddard, even Hawkinson. Wait for the draft to fall to you. Take your tight end as it comes to you. Don't reach. And then if you don't, then just you could stream every week. You can. Yeah, I mean, Gerald Everett, dependable streamer. Hunter Henry, maybe a streamer. I'm not big on Hunter Henry as much as you are. I'm on the other side. I like Jonnu Smith a little bit more.
I do too. I have him at 18. I don't have him anywhere high.
I think his physicality compared to Hunter Henry is a huge difference. But like we said, Adam Troutman, Robert Tonyan going later in drafts, definitely worth the buy there. All right.
Chef, Eric Ebron was tight end 14 last year. He's going undrafted. He still plays with Big Ben, doesn't he? Like, so why would I take Mike Gosicki in the 7th round when I can get Eric Ebron on the Waiver Wire Heroes show with the chef on Tuesday mornings? Like, why wouldn't I do that?
I agree. I love it. You keep plugging it, man.
I got to plug it, chef. It's that time. 35 days and a wake up, everybody. 35 days and a wake up, and we're playing football. Yeah. So we're 34 days away. I just got chills. 34 days away from the first Waiver Wire Hero show. And I guarantee you we'll be saying Eric Ebron's name. Jared Cook was tight end 18 last year, and he's about to go play with Justin Herbert. Why not take him? He's pretty much going undrafted. So yeah, we're going to be talking about these tight ends. If you don't get one of those top 3 guys, which you should target them, and if you can get them and you're in a position to not overpay, go ahead. But then you still get all these guys to choose from at the very end of drafts or for free. So I'm excited. All right. Can you tell I'm excited?
I think you're excited. I'm excited. Yeah. Why wouldn't we be excited?
35 days in a wake up.
Oh, man, it sounds great. All right, so let's move into our next segment, and this is a mailbag segment.
This is awesome.
Thank you. Shout out to Anthony Conchola for writing into the show. Like we were ecstatic that he did so. And shout out to Justin, Big Greens, Zach Argue, all you guys that are in the chat. But no, if you have questions,
Tilt Squad,
hit us up at mailbag@thetiltisreal.com, just like Anthony has done here, and we will bring your question on the show and answer it for you live, so you can go over the results in podcast form. Check out our podcast and any podcast format. We are on iTunes, our Apple iTunes, Google Play, all that jazz, especially at Anchor Podcast. Shout out Anchor. We got to, it's a sponsor.
Of course.
And Anthony would like us to pick the expected keepers for his league mates, so he can better predict his draft options for the upcoming season. So here we go, Juan. You and I are going to go team by team and decipher who we think the teams will keep for this 2021 season. Now, the first team I have here is Alvin Kamara at 1, Patrick Mahomes at 2, Carson Wentz, Chris Carson 3, Robert Woods 4. Obviously, Cam Akers is not a good option. And then he has CeeDee Lamb in the 8th round.
Yeah, so Kamara, you're already taken at the 1, but it's the 11th spot, Chef. So this team is drafting from the 11th spot. So do you want to keep Alvin Kamara in the 11th spot? Do you want to keep Patrick Mahomes at 14? Or do you want to take Carson late in the 3rd, Robert Woods early in the 4th, or CeeDee Lamb, early in the 8th?
I'm smashing CeeDee Lamb here. Hands down.
8th round value on CeeDee Lamb. And it's great that you answered that, Chef, because Justin just asked us to rank out Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, and CeeDee Lamb. And I would go Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb in that order. I'm not as big on CeeDee Lamb as everybody else is, but the 8th round, you're right. It's a really good value for him. But Alvin Kamara at 11, Chef, you'll never get him at 11. You'll never get him at 11.
I mean, I think you'll get a feasible running back in either Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler, which, is okay for that position, that draft position. And, CeeDee Lamb currently going 35 overall in the 3rd round. 8th round value. That's 5 round value.
That's fine. I'm because of shout out to next week when we break down the wide receivers, but there's 50 wide receiver 2s. There's so many of them. So if I could lock up Alvin Kamara at the 11th, I'm going to my draft, I don't even have to show up to the 2nd round because I just got Alvin Kamara, at the number 11 pick. Wow, I can't believe Alvin Kamara fell to me at 11. So I understand what you're saying. There are other options there at running back, but there aren't too many. And if I can start my team off with having Alvin Kamara, because then I can take CeeDee Lamb in the 3rd round. Why not? You know what I mean?
Fair
I already
enough.
have Alvin Kamara, but we'll tilt on that one because it is an outstanding value for someone for you to get CeeDee Lamb in the 8th round. So that person on that team, if probably, Chef, you're probably right. And that person picking 11th in Antonio's league is probably going to take CeeDee Lamb.
All right, so we're going to go to pick number 5 here, and we're going to jump around in the order of his email. Pick number 5 has Saquon Barkley in the 1st, Kenny Golladay 2nd, Darren Waller 4th, Matt Ryan 6th, Devontae Parker 7th, Antonio Gibson 8th.
Yeah, we don't even have to go through the rest of them. He's got Darrell Henderson in the 14th, which is a really good value. Right now, given the Akers injury, but it's got to be Gibson in the 8th round.
I think so. I mean, I was tempted to pick Waller here in the 4th because you're not going to be able to get him there, and you can. But getting a potential RB1 in the 8th round is stealing.
It is, because then what you can do is take Waller in the 2nd, because instead of getting Gibson in the 2nd, take Waller in the 2nd, and you already kept Gibson. So it lets you build your team around that way. So I if I were them, I would probably keep Gibson. But given the Waller love and all of that, that person picking number 5 is probably going to keep Waller.
Real fast. Oh, we'll get to some questions after we're done with this exercise. Let's just do it like that because the chat is loading. Shout out T King Mode, my boy Troy. I was on the show with him last night. Shout out to Justin for joining in. The Coming Off the Edge shows every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a lot of fun, shenanigans, dinner parties, you name it, we do it, and it's just a lot of fun hanging out with some of the guys from our Chaos League. All right,
Shout out Chaos.
Shout out Chaos, as always. Now we're going to jump to the 6th spot here, Juan. They have Dalvin Cook, 1, Lamar Jackson, 2, Cooper Kupp in the 3rd, and then here we go, Calvin Ridley in the 4th. Do I keep naming them? Noah Fant?
No, you don't have to. No.
It's out of the top 4 picks here.
Chef, Dalvin Cook at 106, Chef. Again, like the Kamara thing. Like Dalvin Cook falls to you at 106, you're doing a cartwheel. You might sprain an ankle, but you're going to do a cartwheel.
Oh, I don't want to sprain my ankle, man. I have too many. I'm dealing with a broken foot right now. I got a broken toe. I'm always banged up. Right. I am the IR of our Tilt Israel tripod that we do here, and I am always getting injured. I am not trying to sprain an ankle, but I would take Dalvin Cook at 106, and it's very, very tempting.
Yeah, I would love Calvin Ridley in the 4th, but if Dalvin Cook falls to me at 106, so yeah, that would be my keeper. I would keep Dalvin Cook. And Chef, you would have a 53 injury rating in Madden. Like your injury rating would be like a 53.
Shout out to Corey Spala with Load the Wagon. He is reloading the wagon. Go check him out at the Checklist YouTube page.
Yes, sir.
You just had Jeff Bell on, and Jeff Bell lost, did not make it into the Super Bowl, and I laughed at him because it took so long for the draft. But anyway, let's move on to number 7. I'm an agreement there with Dalvin Cook, by the way, at the 106. Yes, I like that.
You'd be crazy not to keep him.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the number 7 spot, he has Ezekiel Elliott, Allen Robinson at 2, Zach Ertz at 3. We can push that one aside. Amari Cooper at 4, Kareem Hunt 5, getting there, getting warmer. But here we go. Josh Allen at number 6. At the 607, you get Josh Allen. Smash, accept it.
Yeah, because by that point, if you're waiting on quarterback, like we tell you probably should do, but you're going to get a top 3 quarterback in the 6th round. So, yeah, give me Josh Allen in the 6th round.
I mean, you're talking 4, almost 5 rounds of value for Josh Allen, currently going 21 overall in ADP. There's no other way. Like, you take Josh Allen in the 6th, it's like drafting last year. You know, you had him in the 6th last year, you get him in the 6th this year. Or I don't know the situation with, having to move up and lose a round of drafting, but I'm assuming not because he did not write it in the email. So, I mean, if you're getting Josh Allen in the 6th round, it's a no-brainer there. That person is definitely going at 607 with Josh Allen. Moving on to the 1st spot.
Yeah, the 101 guy.
The 101 guy, I mean, he's going to build his roster however he pleases with the 101 pick. But DK Metcalf at the 5th round, or Deebo Samuel in the 8th. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's the DK Metcalf. I think that was the easiest one out of them all so far.
This is a tough one.
We're gonna have fun with this one. The 4th pick in the draft, Devontae Adams 104, Melvin Gordon 304.
I'm assuming that's David, because if it's Deontay, then we got something cooking. But it's I think that's David Johnson probably.
Right. Yeah, I guess we can say it's David Johnson, or it might be Deontay Johnson.
Not that high.
Marquis Brown, I'm assuming that's Marquis, not Malcolm, at 5. And Marvin Jones in the 8th round. Well, I mean, if you're in the 4th pick, you're not going to take Devontae Adams 104 overall.
You should not. But given the options that he has on that team, I mean, it seems like that might be their only option.
And he's writing into the chat right now. Thank you for joining us, Antonio. While we are answering your questions live on the podcast, David Johnson. It is. So that makes a little bit more sense. Man, this one's tough, Juan.
It's tough. I would keep no one and start over. Out of this group. But if you have to keep one, then you have to keep Devontae Adams. I mean, I know you're overpaying by 3 spots, but at that point, why not just take him? Especially because everything we talked about, Chef. Now, we got to keep in mind, Dalvin Cook is already gone. Alvin Kamara is already gone. So
I mean, you could solidify the Devontae Adams last dance at Lambeau with Aaron Rodgers in the first round, and then go running back in your second and third picks. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean that would be their strategy, or they just wipe it clean and start over, like you said. That's the other option. So it's either Adams or bust in our opinion. That makes sense. And he says he doesn't have to keep anyone. All right, so
I would scratch it. I would scratch it and take whatever you leave me at 104. Yeah.
Right. And then this second pick is the 102 is Tyreek Hill. I think that's a stretch.
Very much a stretch, yeah.
But DeAndre Hopkins at the 2, so that's the 23rd pick. Raheem Mostert in the 3rd, Evan Ingram in the 9th, Justin Tucker. No, I don't think we're going to say the kicker. It's definitely D-Hop in the second round. I can agree with you there.
At 23, especially if other guys are keeping certain players and you're going to lock in D-Hop, who could be a league winner and has been in the top 10 pretty much every year in his whole career. So, yeah, I would go with D-Hop at 23rd.
And then let's see. I just lost my space here. Where are we at? Oh,
we're at the 10.
We're going to jump at the 10 spot. He has Joe Mixon at the 110. Kenyan Drake. Ooh, he reached last year. He fell into that trap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Adam Thielen. And I'm assuming this is AJ Brown.
Yeah, yes. AJ Brown in the 4th.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right.
No.
Will Fuller in the 5th, David Montgomery in the 6th, or Zach Moss in the 7th. Now, Juan, this is a tricky one because we have Joe Mixon, who is going to be a bell cow back in that offense, but I'm hearing things out of Cincinnati that their offensive line is horrendous right now. They're not going to give Joe Burrow any protection, which leads me to believe that Joe Mixon will be okay until he's not okay. Kenyan Drake, yes, he is the pass catching back, but he's hurt right now. And
not that he's hurt. Like I'm removing him from the equation because he's a backup running back. You know what I mean?
What about Adam Thielen? Now, he did finish as a top 10 wide receiver last year. I think he finished wide receiver 9 in PPR formats. He had all those touchdowns, but I see his touchdown production going down. He's going to have a little bit of negative regression there. AJ Brown is the smash for me in the 4th.
Now I'd be
at the 10, at the 410.
Well, that's the 402.
402.
403. That's a 403. And it's not just that it's the 403, but the problem is all those other guys keeping running backs and keeping players leads me to like David Montgomery. And Zach asked where we have, David Montgomery ranked. I have him as a late 3rd, early 4th round pick type of guy, like in the top 24 for sure. Like I wouldn't
David Montgomery overall or just in the running back. I have him
running backs.
I have him as my RB19 right now.
Yeah, I would have him somewhere probably 21 or so, but yeah, somewhere in there. But still, I'm getting an RB2, albeit a low end RB2 in the 6th round. So it lets me do a lot of other things with those first few picks, especially if you're picking in the 10 slot. Like you said, I want Aaron Jones, I want Austin Eckler, like I want some of those guys. And even in the 4th round at the 402, I might still be able to get Robert Woods. So yeah, I'm losing out on AJ Brown. But I get David Montgomery in the 6th round, and I can get Robert Woods in the 4th, or Allen Robinson maybe in the 4th if I'm lucky. So yeah, there's a lot of different flexibility that keeping a 6th round player gives me.
He could take AJ Brown with his 2nd overall pick at the end of the 2nd round, right? Is that's how it would work? Yeah.
Nah, the 10th spot picks early in the 2nd, so you could take him in the 2nd if you wanted to.
Yeah, AJ Brown. Yeah.
You could take him in the 2nd if you really love him. You keep Montgomery in the 6th, and then you can reach for AJ Brown a little bit earlier and take him in the 2nd if you want, or a different receiver. Depends whoever falls to you. So,
all right, let's see. That was a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So we have Justin. This is the 12 spot. So the turn.
I love it.
Yeah, this is your spot this year. I think you're going to get more turns than ever. I have a 101 this year, which I've never had.
That's crazy. Yeah, I love the turn.
No, I've had the 101 a lot, and it's always burned me. I've always picked wrong with the 101, except for the year I took Antonio Brown and I beat your pants.
You got me.
Josh Jacobs 112, Stephon Diggs in the 4th, Deshaun Watson in the 5th, Ronald Jones in the 8th,
Justin Jefferson in the
12th round. Yes, you have to go with Justin Jefferson in the 12th round. He is currently going as wide receiver 6 in ADP, maybe even higher than that if I was smart and I adjusted the rankings. Number 7, overall 23 in the 2nd round. That's a smash accept. He's going to take Justin Jefferson in the 12th round. I know I would.
Because you can still take Diggs in the first or second round turn right there, and you have Diggs and Justin Jefferson, who you got in the 12th, you're stealing. So that person's in a really good position.
All right, and now we're moving on to the third spot, the 103. He's got Nick Chubb in the second. Oh, I like that. Todd Gurley, no. Smith-Schuster in the fourth. Russell Wilson in the fifth. Hunter Henry in the seventh. We talked about that. You could probably get Hunter Henry later than that in the draft. Jamison Crowder in the ninth. Sleeper alert. Jamison Crowder is going in the 15th round of all drafts right now. Don't waste your keeper in the ninth round. But Jerry Jeudy in the 10th is interesting as well. In my opinion, it's between Chubb in the second, Smith-Schuster in the fourth, or Jerry Jeudy in the 10th round.
Smash accept Nick Chubb in the second round, especially because it's late in the second round. So you're talking about the 22nd pick overall, and I don't think Nick Chubb makes it back to number 22 in most drafts. So especially with all the keepers and everybody keeping Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, all those guys, might as well keep Chubb in the second.
I have Nick Chubb as my RB4 this year right now, so I would smash accept Nick Chubb as my keeper and make sure I have him and make sure I can get another running back ahead of him as well. So that makes a lot of sense at the 103. So, I mean, you're getting Nick Chubb late in the second round.
Indeed.
All right.
And the most important
team, this is Anthony's team, I believe.
Yeah.
Julio Jones in the first.
At the
Aaron Jones at the 205. You're good at that. I hate that. Keenan Allen in the 5th round, Leonard Fournette in the 6th, or Aaron Rodgers in the 9th. Who should he keep?
We already saw one of his league mates is going to keep Josh Allen. And quarterbacks are going to go. And if you're going to give me the MVP at the 908, I think I have to take him. Like, I love Aaron Jones at the 205 because other running backs are gone. But you might just take him at 108 and then get Aaron Rodgers at 8, in the 9th round at the 908. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones could fall back to you in the second. Like
probably not because we already lost Alvin Cook, we lost Alvin Kamara, and we lost Nick Chubb just now.
Oh, so yeah.
You know what I mean? If you lost all three of those guys, like there's a chance that Aaron Jones doesn't make it back after the turn. So you take him at 108 because that might be your best option at that point. So I would probably take Aaron Jones at 108 and then, keep Aaron Rodgers in the 9th round.
Fair enough. Yeah, he's going ADP of 52, Aaron Rodgers overall. So that is great value for an MVP quarterback who has something to prove and will probably be playing for a roster spot somewhere else. He has something to prove this year. They are all going for it. It's the last dance at Lambeau, and we will be here to talk about it. And that sums up the
keeper exercise. The
keeper exercise for Antonio Conchalo. Shout out, Antonio. Thank you for writing to the show. If anybody else in the chat is interested in having their questions answered, please, like we said, email us at mailbag@thetiltisrael.com. And we appreciate you guys. I think that pretty much wraps up the show, Juan. Do we have any other questions in the chat? Justin wants to know, what is your guys' thoughts on the Giants fight? It's despicable. It really is. It really is, Justin. It's
all right, tell him, coach.
Yeah, Joe Judge probably put his foot up their rears, and I heard they were running sprints until they dropped. It's not good, especially with quarterback Danny Dimes at the bottom of the pile.
Chef, I like the chippiness. I'm old school. I like every time we used to do 2-a-days and we start brawling or somebody would start, throwing their hands a little bit. That next game, we were ready to take it out on the opponent. So maybe it's a little early. Like, I hope they don't peak too early, but I like the fact that they're chippy. I like the fact that they're feisty and playing and trying really hard and getting under each other's skin. It's a sign of a team that's going to be on the right track. And I'm a big Giants fan this year. I'm big on all their offensive players. I'm a Saquon truther. I'm an Evan Ingram truther. I'm all about them this year, and I like the fact that they're being chippy. That defense might surprise some people too. So I'm big on the Giants this year.
Anything else in the chat? Forever hold your peace. Let's see. What do you got? We talked about David Montgomery. Yeah, Antonio says thank you. And I think that'll wrap up the show, Juan. I know you have to get going. I have to get going. For all of you Tilt Squatters out there, thank you for joining in the chat today. The chat is lit, by the way.
It has been crazy. I love it.
I appreciate you guys. Shout out
Justin.
Big Greens, Antonio, Justin, Zach, T King Mode. Thank you for all of your help and in the chat. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday for the next show. And until then, we are out. I am FF_chef on Twitter, James Crease for my real name. Juan, what's your handle and where they can find you?
Juan Carlos Pena. You can find me at FF Juan of a Kind. And real quick, next Wednesday, we're breaking down the wide receivers. Tune back in. If you thought this was fun, wait till you see what happens with the wide receivers. I keep saying all offseason that there's 50 wide receiver twos, and next week I aim to prove that there are 50 wide receiver twos.
Maybe we should just do a show on the wide receiver twos. And
maybe we should
all 50 wide receiver twos.
Maybe we should breaking down the top 50 wide receiver twos. And what's up to Chase?
Yeah,
Chase
shout out to
FF Intervention.
Yeah, that's shout out to everybody. Thank you for joining in, and we'll see you next time, man. Later.
Next Wednesday.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to the Tilt is Real Fantasy Podcast. Like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Check out our website at thetiltisreal.com for more great fantasy football content. We'll catch you guys next time on The Tilt is Real.